You are watching the Doctalk show.
Substance abuse is a growing concern in today's world. Well, the main reason is lots of people are getting hooked to substances, especially people of the younger generation. And obviously this has big detrimental effects to their health and general well-being. So I want to understand who might be at risk of getting addicted to substances. Who is at risk of suffering from an issue of substance abuse? Dr. Diana, do you want to approach that question?
Sure. So it's quite varied, and it goes all the way from utero, or when a baby is in mom's tummy.
Okay.
So it depends on what mom's doing at that point. Is mom drinking alcohol? Is mom smoking excessively?
Oh, wow. Okay.
And studies have shown that any amount of alcohol is actually detrimental. So
So basically, if mom is drinking, baby when they grow up is likely to drink?
fetal alcohol syndrome.
Okay.
Firstly, and then of course there are complications after that, because in the end there's damage to the developing brain, and this is a child that's then going to go out and compete with other kids that have not had any alcohol into their brains. So the kid's actually slow in class, slow to pick up, and at the end of the day it affects the child's self-esteem, and they try to look for other ways to compensate. And this is a child who might end up using substances.
Okay, so it has kind of a long-term effect.
Yes.
What we do, what the mother does at the time of pregnancy can also affect the child when they're grown up.
Yes.
Okay, this is very interesting. I actually didn't know about that. But so Dr. Hilary, who might you say is at risk when you see the people in the hospital? Which kind of people are likely to suffer from substance abuse?
Thank you. In addition to what Dr. Diana is saying, we classify the risks into those that are genetically predisposed. There's also what we call psychological risk factors. Now, psychological comes in things like mental illness. She was talking about anxiety. There are those who are depressed. There are those who are psychotic, don't have sleep, and the only alternative they want is to take something to be able to sleep. She talked about the biological basis. It's because we know especially alcohol depresses the body and kind of takes you to sleep. But you see, that is the short-term gain that people get from the alcohol. Okay. The short-term gain is to basically make them high, make them happy, but the long term is basically depressing you.
So they first go through an initial high, the moods are happy,
Exactly.
they are living the life, feeling on top of the world. Then after, it kind of goes down.
Exactly. We have had a lot of patients who would be classified as alcoholics or substance abusers, but it's mainly because of the other mental illness symptoms that are preventing them from sleeping mainly, and then predisposing them to mental illness. Okay. Then there are also social risk factors, and this is where the biggest things come in. You hear about people saying, I have peer pressure. You find that they have relationship issues, work issues, and these all stress you out. So you end up resorting to the bottle to be able to take you out of that kind of scenario. And as we talked, your social issues can predispose you and push you to go and start. But if you're genetically predisposed, then it spirals out of control.
Wow, okay. What is driving the substance abuse? When you compare what you see here and what you see where you work, well, is there any significant difference, or are they essentially the same?
They're essentially the same. Just like Dr. Hilary has, elaborated on the different risk factors. I would like to add that genetic predisposition contributes about 50 to 60%, which is quite high.
Basically, what you're trying to say is parents have a direct,
absolutely,
a direct link to alcohol in their children.
And worse still, it goes all the way to the fourth generation.
Okay. So what do you mean by to the fourth? Like
So
to the children,
and the grandchildren and the grandchildren
But
and
why is
further
that so?
on.
Why is that different? Is there, are you saying like there are specific genes which control alcohol that goes down to the generations?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. Well, it's not uncommon that it may miss a generation because if the children are watching what's happening to the parents, they might say, I don't want to be that way, and there might be a difference in that generation. But again, the children of the generation that's abstained probably have not watched the effects of what happened to the grandparents, and these are the children that will then propagate that further on.
All right. Does it only apply to alcohol, or it's to any other substance, Dr. Hilary?
Alcohol is like one of the most widely studied substances, most consumed as well. And there are specific genes that have been identified, especially with the alcohol, that ate. There are communities, especially in Southeast Asia, that have been identified to lack these genes, and their susceptibility is quite different from the rest of the countries where that gene has been identified. However, as my colleague here was talking about, it is not only genetics, but other neurotransmitters and hormones. She was talking about dopamine. There are things like serotonin, adrenaline. There are others. So alcohol, even opioids, alcohol, all other substances affect these substances in so many different ways.
They affect the brain chemicals.
Exactly.
Okay.
And depending on how they affect them, the risks will be different to all other substances. So we find that things like cannabis is quite prevalent, but it may not be genetically predisposed as alcohol, but the availability and the accessibility will contribute a lot. For example, in school-going children, you find that there are different groups and there are different social triggers, and you find that, yeah, they'll keep using and keep using and keep using. And once you use, cannabis has been found to be associated with the development of psychotic symptoms, hallucinations, delusions, disorganized speech, and eventually what we call schizophrenia.
Schizophrenia. So it has a link. But is it the actual cause of those mental illnesses?
It may not be the actual cause. It may have a significant contribution.
It may also contribute.
Yeah.
But the disease in itself, the schizophrenia, psychosis, those are kind of different diseases having their own patterns.
Yes.
But alcohol has an add-on effect.
Exactly.
On already the disease. Someone already has illness such as, I don't know, bipolar. Then when they add alcohol, the effect is increased.
Exactly. And we always say all these mental illnesses, including substances, are on a continuum. So once you have risks to developing one mental illness, there is a high chances that you'll get another illness, including substance dependence or abuse.
Okay. So more about substance abuse coming after the break. You might be interested in knowing what you can do to help someone. If you know someone who is struggling with addiction to a particular substance and you want to learn how to help them, well, don't go away. We'll be right back after the break to talk more about this.
You are watching the Doctalk Show.